Hello and welcome to the High Performance Garden Expert Interview segment. Today we have a special guest, Andrew Nowak from Slow Food USA. Andy has been interning at our farm in our Farm to Table Cafe for the last week. He even helped us with our 4th of July float. Andy is one of the co-directors at the National Slow Food USA School Program. It's been a real pleasure having you on the farm.
It's been a wonderful week, Lynn. I've really enjoyed my experience here in Peonia and on the Living Farm. I've learned so much, and I'm very happy I could contribute to the performance of the farm, too.
Good. It's been a great week. We got a lot of stuff done.
I think it was good timing that I showed up, both for my interests and for your needs of the farm.
Yes, definitely. We always need a little help here on the farm. So, Andy, please tell us how Slow Food got started.
So Slow Food has its origins in Italy. Back in the late 1980s, there was the opening of a McDonald's restaurant in Rome across from the Spanish Steps. And the Italian farmers saw this new restaurant, this American restaurant, coming into their hallowed capital as a threat to their food culture. And so they had a protest. They didn't want this American company coming into Rome, and so their form of protest was sitting down with bowls of pasta next to the restaurant. And that began the slow food movement, which was meant to counteract the fast food scene.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'm glad that they did that. So what does slow food look like in the United States?
So since the beginning of slow food in Italy, it has spread across the world. We're now in 170 countries around the globe. Here in the United States, our headquarters are in Brooklyn, New York, and in Denver, Colorado. And we have about 150 chapters, which includes about 30 or 40 campus chapters at the college level.
Nice.
The chapters are run by volunteers, which should always be remembered. We're very much a grassroots, volunteer-driven organization. The chapters are there to endorse and support slow food methods that are meaningful to their community. So in the upper Northwest, it may be around the salmon runs and the preservation of the rivers. In the southeast, where there's a lot of grain being grown, it's the preservation of the heritage grains. So it looks different everywhere you go, but it's all about good, clean, and fair food for everybody.
Yeah, we have a really nice chapter here, the
right.
Western slope of Colorado.
Exactly. Here in Peonia, yeah. We had dinner with them last night.
Oh, good.
And we've kind of decided it's probably one of the smallest rural chapters in a very strong farming community, and yet there is a strong purpose for them here. And they do help put on events and bring people even closer to slow food.
Yeah, that's good. So how did you get started in slow food?
So I have a culinary background. I've been cooking in restaurants since I was 15, but I also have an education background. I have a PhD in psychology, took that as far as the University of Pittsburgh. But in 2000, my family moved to Denver for my wife's position. She's a surgeon in Denver. And I got involved in my kids' school. It's a neighborhood school. They were both in elementary. And I started doing cooking classes with the kids to bring some of their reading books to life. There's a lot of food in their stories that they're reading in second grade. And those cooking classes led to, where does food come from? Boys and girls, do you know how a carrot is grown? Or where do you find a potato? And so I got permission to put in a small school garden at the school and started growing vegetables so the kids could see where some of this food comes from. And about that time, just about 2001, I read in the paper about this new organization in Denver called Slow Food. I never heard of it before, and they were starting a chapter in Denver, and their goal was to do school gardens in the district. So I said, I'll go to one of their meetings and introduce them to my school garden, and they had 3 other gardens. I liked what they were standing behind, and I thought it would be a good group to join. So I brought my garden into their gardens and soon became one of the leaders in developing the Denver program.
Nice. That's really exciting to take that back to the school level.
Yeah, well, as a new parent in Denver, it was a good fit for me.
Yeah.
It allowed me to bring my gardening and my cooking and my education all together.
Perfect. So how were you able to go from working for Slow Food Denver to creating a national program?
So the Denver program, we took a good 12 years to develop. It was a nice, slow effort. We started with 4 gardens. I think we're currently now in about 60 school gardens in Denver Public Schools. And through the years, we developed programs around those gardens, cooking classes for kids. We developed a farmers market program where kids could sell their produce at the school site, kind of like a bake sale, but using fresh vegetables.
Nice.
We worked with the school district to bring the produce into the cafeteria so it could be used on the salad bars for the kids' meals. So all these programs that we developed in Denver were getting a lot of national attention. They were pretty much on the cutting edge. Denver Public Schools was a very good partner in these efforts and allowed us to really experiment and find different ways to engage the garden in with the kids' education and with the cafeteria and with the greater community, like the farmers market, because we would serve the greater community with that. And so with that national attention, I started having discussions with my national office, and I knew that other chapters around the country were doing similar efforts, and yet we didn't have a national coordination in slow food to bring all these chapters together and provide resources for them. So I pitched the idea of a national program for slow food. It got a lot of positive reception, but we needed money. Right? You know, everything needs to be funded. And when you start working at the national level, you should be paid for what you do. You know, it's hard to be a volunteer anymore at that level.
Yeah, because you got the travel and everything.
Oh, you got travel, and you got to create resources and all that. Yeah, it requires money. So in Denver, we had a very good partnership with Chipotle. Chipotle was founded in Denver. I live a half mile from the original store. And their marketing team is in Denver, and I started having conversations with them. They're very much supportive of kids' education around food because their whole food with integrity movement is very similar to slow foods, good, clean, and fair movement. And so we had a great discussion, and they decided to sponsor us on a national level. So since 2013, we've received 2 large grants from Chipotle that supports this program and allows us to have a team of 2 of us in Denver that coordinates all our efforts for slow food.
That's exciting.
It was good. It was a very nice continuation of all the great projects in Denver now being thrusted upon the national scene.
And how many kids' gardens do you have nationally?
On our website, we're up to about 1,200 gardens that have signed on to our resources. Either they've come to our website and downloaded some stuff, they've ordered seeds from us. We do a lot of heirloom and what we call Ark of Taste seeds, which are seeds that are disappearing. So yeah, about 1,200 gardens. I think that number is a little bit low. I think there's, it's hard to get all of them to register so we can put them on the website. But it's been growing rapidly.
That's exciting. That's cool. So what kind of support does the Slow Food USA offer to the school gardens and to the chapters?
Into the chapters, right. So again, at the chapters, we have all volunteers. So, they're very busy being at the gardens and helping with the maintenance or maybe teaching some classes. But it's a huge challenge for them to create manuals and curriculum. So my office has been working on creating slow food themed curriculum and manuals to support our gardens. So we've taken the good, clean, and fair mantra of slow food, and we're creating the good, the clean, and the fair school garden manuals.
Wow.
So the good school garden curriculum has already been published, available on our website, and it's all about taste education, getting kids to eat straight from the garden and activating their senses, understanding what do these things taste like, and do I like it or not? Right?
Yeah.
And then in the second section of the book is, okay, I kind of like it, but I want to learn how to make it better. So we do some simple cooking exercises with them. We teach them some knife skills. We teach them how to use simple tools, and then how to add a squeeze of lemon or a dash of salt or a little mayonnaise or something to some salad greens, something that pleases their palate. So now they say, this is a dish, and I really like this. And it gives them some ability to control what they eat. I don't think in general kids are invited to be in the kitchen at home much these days, if they do cooking at home at all, versus eating out all the time. And so by reintroducing kids to some cooking skills, they don't get home ec in school anymore. So school gardens are almost becoming the next home ec.
Nice.
Growing the food and then preparing the food, and then sitting down at the table and enjoying the food with their friends. What better example of slow food is there than that?
Yep, that's perfect.
So we have the curriculum. The clean curriculum will be coming out in the next month or so. It's all about gardening the slow food way. How to use organic methods, how to define different garden themes in the garden, like a pizza bed, a pickle bed, a Chinese bed, so that we can explore the cooking and the culinary cultures around those beds. And it also introduces the Arc of Taste to the students, and that again is a catalog of seeds and plants that are disappearing because our marketplace doesn't support more than 6 apples in the store, and there's over 5,000 apple varieties out there.
Yeah.
Why do we only see 6 in the store? And so we're getting kids to plant Arc of Taste varieties, different kinds of lettuces and different cucumbers and tomatoes, so that they can explore the whole range of the biodiversity that's available in our food system.
Yeah, there's a lettuce in the Arc of Taste that we like to grow. It's called Grandpa Admires.
Okay.
And it's green with a kind of a rosy colored tips on it.
Right.
Very beautiful lettuce, very tender and really tasty.
I love showing kids that lettuce is just not green. We'll grow a whole rainbow of lettuce colors, lay them out on the table, and then let the kids taste each leaf by themselves. Is this a sweet one? Is this a bitter one? Is this a strong one? And then design a salad dressing to go with those flavors.
Nice.
That's when you're really exploring the taste behind the food that you're growing.
That's awesome.
And then the third manual that will come out will be based on FAIR, and this is all about farming practices, farm workers, our food system. How can we create a fair food system that serves everybody? And it's just not the people with more money that get to buy organics, or get to buy fresh versus other people that might have to buy canned because it's cheaper. So we want to, using school gardens, introduce kids to how to create a fair food system, and maybe launch them on their own advocacy for good food for everybody. So that one will come out in about a year or so. We haven't even started writing that one yet.
Wow.
one at a time.
Yeah, that's great.
So in addition to the curriculum, we're creating manuals that introduce different programs to the garden. So I mentioned the Farmers Market program. We call it the Youth Farmers Market, YFM. And right now I'm writing a toolkit for that, which will be a step-by-step document that will allow schools to have their own farmers market program, and the kids run the market with the help of parent volunteers, and any money that they raise goes back into the garden program to keep that garden program going, because not only does it cost money to start the program, but every year there are renewable costs that we have to raise money for, and gardens are only going to survive as long as they can support themselves.
Yeah.
And then the second toolkit that we'll be writing shortly is how to get that garden produce into the cafeteria. There's a lot of rules from the USDA and from the health department that govern the food in the cafeteria.
Okay.
Yet we have gardens 50 feet away from the cafeteria that are growing beautiful food that the kids would love to eat. They're eating it in cooking classes, but they're not eating it in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So we've been successful in Denver for the last 6 years in getting that garden produce into the cafeteria. And the cafeteria pays for that produce. It's another way to support the garden program. And so we're taking our best practices and the lessons learned that we had in Denver, and we're creating this toolkit, and we're going to share it out with schools across the nation.
That's nice. Now, will different states have different regulations you have to work with?
Exactly. And so we're creating templates. And the idea is you take the Denver template, or you take San Diego took the Denver and made their own rules and protocol. Chicago took the Denver and made their own. So we're going to put all those into the toolkit, and a school district can work with the local health department and say, I think we're going to be a little bit closer to the San Diego template.
Okay.
We're going to use that, but we're still going to tweak it a little bit because our local health rules are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so, there's no one set of protocols that's going to work for everybody. But if they start from something that's worked someplace else, their chances of success are much greater.
Nice. So the kids are out of school in the summer. How do you handle the program through the summer?
If I had a nickel for every time that question was asked,
Well, that's a big one.
And I guarantee it's asked within one of the first 3 questions that ever comes up about school gardens.
Oh, good. We're on number 5.
So I always come back and say, well, you're getting ready to go on vacation next week.
Yep.
What do you do about your garden when you're away?
I get a babysitter.
Right, you get a babysitter. Your local
Yeah.
kid, you pay them, a couple bucks to come over to water, or you have an uncle down the street that says, I'll come over and water. So before a school garden is even built at a school, these kind of decisions are already in place.
Good.
How are we going to do this? Who's going to be maintaining the gardens during the year, and then what are we going to do during the summer? I've seen some very creative solutions come up. Parents who may live in an apartment building but want to get involved in a garden project. They'll sign up for 2 weeks over the course of the summer, and with their children they'll come in and the garden leader, like myself, will teach them how to water and weed that garden. And for 2 weeks, the family gets to take care of the school garden and have a family activity. And it's not hard to schedule families across the 2 weeks periods of the summertime. I've seen Boy Scout troops who need community hours volunteer.
Okay.
Church groups who want to support a local school. There's a lot of solutions, but we got to have a plan even before that garden goes in. Because how sad would a group of kids be if they planted that garden in May before they went for summer, and then they came back and it didn't really exist much when they came back. We don't want kids having that kind of an experience. We want a very positive experience for them.
Yeah, and the kids that come and take care of it, they'll feel ownership of that.
Exactly.
They'll be like, those are my carrots.
Right.
And
I wish we could have the kids involved with the process from planting to harvesting, but the school year just doesn't line up in most parts of the country with the growing season, right? You got that big chunk in the summertime. And schools that have summer programs, great. They involve the garden in their summer programs. But my experience has been that's a very small proportion of the schools. So most of them are just pretty much shut down in the summertime. Now down south, you get a little bit further south, the summer's too hot to grow. And so they're actually growing from August, September when they back to school through the winter and into May. They get to see the whole garden process.
Nice.
That they're very fortunate. But most of the schools we work with on the northern half of the country, we have to, plant with the kids in the spring, harvest with them in the fall.
That's good. That's good. You can piece that together.
Yeah.
You put that in place before it ever starts, so you have that success. So they get that success at the end.
Yeah, and the biggest thrill for most kids is the harvest, because that leads to the cooking classes and then the eating.
And the eating, yeah.
They do love the planting in the spring, but nothing gets kids more excited than food. So having a garden full of produce when they come back to school in August, September is our main goal.
That's fun.
It is.
That's good. Give them good memories.
Exactly.
Yep. So what are the challenges to getting more schools involved with gardens?
Right. So we've heard a lot in the papers and on the radio and TV about the challenges schools are facing. Just getting kids' test scores up. Getting their academic performance. Well, school gardens aren't seen anywhere on the standardized tests that the kids take every year for the state. So a lot of principals say if it's not on the tests, I can't allow the time during the day for the kids to participate. Well, what we're trying to show is the garden is a perfect classroom, because you can learn math in the garden, you can learn science in the garden, and it means more when you're actually learning about germination, watching it in the dirt versus reading it in a book. So the principals that get it understand that the garden is a great laboratory that brings learning to life, and it becomes more meaningful. So, we're slowly getting the schools to look at the gardens as more than just an extracurricular activity, more than just a fun, almost like a recess activity, and getting them to look at it as a learning opportunity. So that's one of our challenges. Where do we fit it into the academic day? Teachers aren't trained in general on how to use an outdoor space when they go to teachers college, right? Yeah. They're taught, in the four walls of the classroom, here's your books, maybe there's your chalkboard, and that's your weaponry to teach these kids, right? But here's a garden that again, you can teach all these really exciting subjects in the garden. A lot of teachers are afraid of a garden because maybe they don't garden at home. They don't have the skills for that. So getting the teacher to be comfortable out in the garden so that the garden is used more is a challenge for us. Money is always a challenge. To start a school garden of an average size so that all the kids in the school can participate, we see on the average cost $7,000 to $10,000. So that's initial cost. So that's a lot of money for the school to fundraise for. Districts don't have money for that. So typically the PTA or some parent group is raising money for that through grants or fundraisers. And then just getting enough help in the garden, volunteers. Most school gardens, I'd say 98% of school gardens are run by volunteers. Be it parents, teachers who are doing a little extra work because they believe in the school garden, community members contributing in. We really would love to see paid positions in school gardens come up at some point, just like another teacher, right?
Yeah.
A garden teacher. But districts' budgets are tight, and we have to show that the gardens are actually contributing to the academic success of the kids before the districts are going to start investing money into paid teachers. That's slowly beginning to happen, but we've got a ways to go on that. So those are all challenges, yet school gardens are increasing in number year after year after year.
That's great.
The USDA has counted over 7,000 school gardens across the country, and we still feel that's a low number because of reporting practices. So they are increasing. They are becoming more accessible in the schools, and we're defeating those challenges slowly.
So what age group are you targeting mostly?
It's very easy to get kids in the elementary school to be involved in gardens. Their day is a little more flexible.
Yeah.
They tend to be with one teacher all day, and that teacher is the science teacher, the math teacher, the social studies teacher. It's typically, I'd say easily 90% of school gardens are in elementary schools.
Okay.
We're breaking into middle schools and high schools, but they look different. Middle schools tend to be after-school programs because once the kids get into middle school, they're on a very tight block schedule.
Yeah.
And those 45-minute blocks typically aren't long enough to do something in the garden. And then you get those middle school kids, the girls are dressing up a little bit nicer, the boys, are trying to act cool. Getting dirty in the garden is not high on their list at that age. But then they jump to high school, and now the high school students are becoming a little bit more aware of the community, right? You got your green club, you've got your environmental club,
Okay.
you got clubs that are addressing all different issues, and gardens sometimes fit into those. You are challenged by sports and after-school jobs, which keeps the high school students busy. But I've seen very successful gardens at the high school level. Kids who are very interested in about food and how food can influence their community, and environment is always a good way to get the gardens into the high schools.
Yeah, nice. So all three levels.
My dream scenario is as a student enters kindergarten and all the way through 12th grade, they're in a garden every year.
Somewhere.
Imagine, in some capacity and some sort of experience. You imagine what that kid's going to be like in 12th grade when they graduate from high school. They're going to understand food. They're going to understand the growing process. Either we've got future farmers there, future chefs, or just advocates for a better food system.
And healthier people.
And healthier people overall. Because they bring this message home, and they share it with their parents. I can't tell you how many home gardens get started because of the school garden.
Nice.
Because we do a lot of seedlings for the school garden, way more than we need for school.
Here.
So the kids take them home.
Yeah.
Right? And either it's a patio garden or a little 4x4 in their backyard. But I can't tell you how many times I come back to school in September and the kids run up to me and tell me about the 6 peppers that they grew off their plant, and the recipe they did with it. And so school gardens definitely have an impact at home, too.
Perfect. So what's the next program for the Slow Food Garden?
Okay. So I'm going to describe one domestic and one international program that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
So I talked briefly about what we call the garden and cafeteria, which is getting the school garden produce from the garden into the cafeteria. We got a really nice grant from the Whole Kids Foundation, which is part of Whole Foods, to write this toolkit, to put all these protocols together and all these recommendations. And with Whole Kids Foundation, we're going to spread that out to school districts across the country. And we're going to help pilot the beginnings of these programs in school districts across the country. And I see a huge potential for this to be Slow Food's main mission, is to get school garden produce into the cafeteria and start impacting the food choices in the cafeteria. Because a lot of kids eat 2 meals a day in the cafeteria.
Wow.
And in some districts, they're even starting to serve supper. So
Really?
3 meals a day. And I'll be the first to admit, in the past 20 years, school food hasn't had the best reputation.
Yeah.
But there's been the 8 years now that I've been involved with what we call farm to school, or trying to get that local food, that fresh whole food into the schools. We've seen some tremendous positive changes happening in the school meal program. We're not there where it's 100% great, but we're seeing great changes. And involving the school garden and the kids producing food, we're even starting to see school farms. Denver Public
Nice.
Schools has 3 acres under organic production, just growing food for their cafeterias.
Wow.
And so districts are starting to look at their land and starting to look at their practices of how they buy food, and they're looking at it differently to bring in that local, whole, raw, fresh food. Not really organic at this point because the price point is kind of high for the school districts. But there are some good examples. Detroit Public Schools, Denver, and some other smaller school districts, Salida here in the state, are doing their own farms, and those always are organic, which is exciting. So that's the domestic project that we're really excited about. Internationally, our efforts here at Slow Food USA around school gardens is getting the attention of a lot of other slow food national organizations. So there's in East Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda are calling us, wanting our assistance because they've got a pretty strong school garden program there. Those gardens are really growing food because the kids need food every day. They eat out of those gardens for lunch. But they're really interested in some of the programs because, believe it or not, fast food is making an impact in those countries too.
Wow.
And so the kids are losing their palates to fast food, and our taste education classes could be very valuable for those countries. So we're starting to talk about we're going to call the effort Slow Gardens. So you have slow food, slow gardens, and the plans are early right now, but we would like Slow Food USA to be the leader and bring in African and European and South American countries together in a global effort of slow gardens. And the beginning of that is a pen pal program. So my co-director, Lauren Howe, who works with me in Denver, has launched what we call the Global Garden Exchange, which is a pen pal program that connects U.S. schools to schools across the world around school gardens. And we've got schools, again, in Europe and Africa and South America, and we're always looking for new schools to sign on. And they correspond at least once a month and share stories about their gardens. Kids ask questions about food in your country and answer questions about food in our country. And the idea is to really shrink the distances between children across the world and use gardens as the teaching vehicle for that. So we're excited about that program too.
So do they actually write with a pen and paper, or they email?
Emails.
Email.
We're using technology, yeah. And
slow mail.
yeah, I mean, that would be too slow for us. And even emails are a challenge because often what we're learning in these African schools is they don't have internet at the school. So the teacher has to go to an internet cafe in town, download the email, take it back and read it to the kids, compose a reply, go back to the internet cafe and send the reply. So the response time is pretty slow, but it's still much quicker than the postal would be. And so, and that way they can also exchange pictures, which is exciting. So we get a lot of great pictures of school gardens, and we've even seen some exchanges. Well, that's a great idea. We're going to try it in our school garden.
Nice.
And that's pretty exciting.
What a great program.
Yeah, Lauren's done a great job with that. We're really excited. I think we're up to 80 school pairings right now, but we really want to grow that much bigger.
And then maybe someday those kids will actually meet each other sometime.
Meet each other. A lot of the African schools need money to support their programs, and maybe the U.S. schools can do fundraisers, and then we can wire transfer the money over there to support the African schools. So initially, we just want the schools to get to know each other. We ask that there's no money asked right off the bat. But then as they get to know each other and the kids say, wow, we really could help them, then we want that just to grow organically and let them do some sort of fundraiser, maybe out of their school garden to support that school garden.
Yeah, so now you're adding a social aspect to the garden. That's beautiful.
Well, food is social, right? I mean, you know that. How many people do you meet around the food that you grow? Right?
Oh my gosh, tons.
Right, and how many dinners and celebrations are created because of the food that you grow? Food is a social event, and it needs to be shared. It needs to be enjoyed by groups, not just by yourself.
That's part of the slow food message too.
You bet it is.
Yeah.
You bet it is. Gathering around the table, enjoying the pleasures of the good food that either you grew or that was grown for you, and then sharing that with friends and family.
Yeah, we lose that in America.
It's too easy.
Stuff it down because we're in a hurry.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, so how can our followers get involved with your program or your school gardens?
Right. So I'd be willing to bet in almost any community that you have, your followers are located in, there are school gardens.
Okay.
If you want to get involved with Slow Food, you can go to slowfoodusa.org, and there's a map showing all the Slow Food chapters. With 150 chapters, we're not covering every possible community, but there are, hopefully there's a chapter in your area.
Can someone start one?
You can start one. It's a bit of a process, and you need to get other people involved and go through paperwork. But yeah, you can definitely start one. But we're kind of changing our gears a little bit in Slow Food. It doesn't have to be chapter centric. It could be you and me just doing Slow Food together, and going to work with a single school. We're still Slow Food. Yep. Right, and you're all our resources for gardens are free and downloadable for anybody. You don't need any fancy passwords or membership or anything. That's there for anyone to use.
Nice.
So our resources are again at slowfoodusa.org, and so you can bring our resources to your local school and share it with them. You can connect with the local chapter. You can write to us and find out ways that we need the support. Just doing this video and sharing it out with your community is a huge impact. Getting the word out. There's just a lot of ways of sharing the Slow Food message.
Yeah, great.
We always need volunteers. Obviously, fundraising is a continuing effort by Slow Food chapters. Contributing to a school garden program is huge. Going to a local meeting in which they're talking about local food practices and support of local farmers or support of a local food system indirectly will impact school garden work too. So anything that creates a more vibrant local food system is going to support the efforts in schools too.
That's good, because that makes the community stronger.
Exactly.
Every time you do that.
Yeah, let's keep our food dollars here in the community. I mean, you've got your community buying food from you, and that money stays here, and then you're supporting the community by spending that money in the community too.
Yeah.
So the communities can be built stronger around food if we all pull together.
Great. Okay. Do you have any last messages for our viewers?
Well, I again thoroughly enjoyed my time on the farm. I told Lynn my goal is to have some sort of farm to cafe scene like this in my near future. My daughter's training to become a chef, and so there's the culinary. I want to be the farmer side of things. I've done my time in the kitchen, so that's for younger people, the kitchen work and everything. I like the farming aspects of it. But please, whatever you can do to bring your children and your families closer to the food that's being grown, and whether it's a farmer's market or visiting a farm, or even just going to see a new film that comes out around food. Anything that you can do to start the conversations around a local food system is going to support all of us in the long run in creating a system that is good, clean, and fair for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a matter of communicating with each other and getting the word out.
Education is the beginning,
Yes.
right? And then you get involved. And I want to thank you from Slow Food for what you've done. You hosted us last year on a tour, and the continuing work that you do in the community is inspiring all of us. So thank you very much for everything that the Living Farm does too.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you for coming and spending your week and getting to know you and working so hard on our farm. It was long days.
It's been a great experience. It's been a great experience. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
For those of you who would like to learn more about Andy Nowak, click in the links in the description below or visit slowfoodusa.org. It was a pleasure having you on the show today.